You saw Donald Sutherland. He's great in the season. We have Dennis Quaid and Barry Pepper and Lauren E. Banks, who is Bass's, should I say, long-suffering wife? So I want to start this way. So Chad, you spent a lot of time shaping Ray Donovan, who's one of my favorite TV tough guys. Now, the way I've always thought of David, his superpower is his empathy, and he's just as somebody that you gravitate towards, and it's worked great in movies, even when you turned out to be a bad guy, because the sleight of hand was right there. So, but Bass Reeves is one of the biggest badass guys that I've seen come along on a TV screen in a good long time. Can you guys tell me what went into turning our lovely David into just somebody who you just don't want to be on the business end of his six-shooter?
Yeah, I mean, I was saying this to you out in the hall. David is the most talented individual I've ever been around. And the only thing that sort of supersedes his talent and his work ethic is his humanity. And so to turn Bass or David into a badass wasn't really that difficult, because this man's talent is so extraordinary that, it seemed to me, I know it wasn't effortless for him, but it seemed effortless. And I know that he spent an inordinate amount of time learning to ride horses, learning to fire firearms, and working out with a trainer day in and day out. So, last thing I'll say is that during the entire shoot, I never saw David eat lunch once. He was working on his body every day at lunch, because he was in practically every scene, and that was the time that he could get to become a badass.
Wow. David, what would you say? What was the thing you hated and the thing you most loved as you made that transformation into Bass and a character who was so adept at horseback riding and so convincing in a shootout? That's a guy you want by your side. What was that like? What was the toughest part, and what was the most gratifying part?
Well, first thing to say, it just never gets old to see your head the size of a house. I was sat there going, "Wow, that's me!" It just never gets old. Actually, there was nothing I hated, because the idea of playing Bass Reeves was first presented to me in 2014. And I naively thought that, having done a little bit of a dive, this extraordinary character, of course we're going to get to make this show. Of course, every studio, every network, every cable, streamers didn't even exist back then, is going to want to do this. And we got roundly rejected by everyone twice, with a 2-year gap in between. And so by the time we were actually shooting this, it had been an 8-year journey for me trying to get this thing made. So the horse riding, the dialect work, the working on every aspect alongside Chad, who just did the most extraordinary job of bringing this character to life, because he had a 32-year career as a lawman. So distilling it down to an essential part of his story in order for it to be something that the audience can gravitate towards was very much in Chad's hands and that writer's room's hands. But because it had taken so long to come to fruition, honestly, every day was a blessing for me, because my dream was literally coming true before my eyes. As a 6-year-old kid, up until, into my teens, I was obsessed with Westerns. But I never saw a cowboy who looked like this guy. And so to literally be stepping into what I consider a gift to my to my childhood self just meant that no matter how brutal what we were doing was, it was just always a joy.
You know, I